Many components support the styles feature. This is a feature that allows you to define a set of visual styles that will change based upon a single driving property. That way, you don't have to set up several property bindings on the same value. Let's do a couple of examples. The first is on numeric label here. Of course, I can bind the value property to a tag. Let's say I take my level tag, drag it right down. I can see the value coming through on the component. Now what I want to do is change the background color, the foreground color, the border, and the font, all based on the same tag value. Without styles, I have to go down to every property and bind them to an expression or some binding type involving the level tag in order to get the appropriate value to come back. With styles, I can define all this in a single location. So I can right-click on the component and go down to Customizers, and if it supports styles, I can select the Style Customizer. The first thing I do is set up the driving property. Which property is going to drive the entire style of the component, which in my case is the value property since it's linked to the tag already. Then I can select all the properties that I want to change, like the background color, the border, the font, and the foreground color. Then down below I can add one or more styles of values here. So I'm going to use the green plus icon, add a couple of rows. The first one, since it's numeric value, it's going to be if the value is greater than or equal to 0, it's going to be the style here. So I'm going to make it maybe a red background color and a white foreground color, and I can change the border and I can change the font. Then if the value here in the second one is if it is greater than or equal to 11, I want it to be a different set. I want that to be green and the foreground color to be black there. Maybe I want the border to be something like a bevel raised. Add another row down at the bottom, and this one is if it's going to be greater than or equal to 90. I want it to be in this state here, where I can actually select this to be maybe yellow, the foreground color to be black, and so on. Now that I've got my style set up, I'm going to go ahead and press OK. I'll see the styles coming through on the component as it moves through those different states. If you look here, you'll see that there are properties like the border, the font, foreground color, and background color that are bold, letting me know that they're using styles with a little color wheel here to show that it is actually bound. It is bound here because styles is changing the value. You don't want to also go and bind this to an expression or to a tag because styles will change the value for you automatically. So I can basically change all those properties from one location using the Styles Customizer. Let's do another example here. On the label. The label typically doesn't have a good driving property. So what we can do is we can right click and we can add a custom property to the component. So I've added a custom property, I can call this property state, that's integer. So when I press OK, I'll see it down here at the bottom. I can actually then, of course, link that to a tag, like drag my state tag down to it. And then I can go and configure the styles. Right click, go down to Customizers, and Style Customizer. Of course, I can drive the style off the state property that I just added, and then I can affect anything I want. Background color, border, I can affect the font, the foreground color, and I can also maybe change the text here. I can add a few rows down below, so maybe if the value is 0, I want it to be red with a white foreground color and the border to be an etched border here and the text to say on. If it's a value of 1, or sorry, the text there will be off. If the value is 1, I want the text to be on. And I want the background color to be green, and I want the foreground color to be black, and maybe I want the border here to be a bevel. Then I can do the same thing for the last state, 2, where I can actually set this to, say, faulted. And it can fill the background color, maybe I want that to be red, and the foreground color to be white. Now with the styles feature, the one thing you can do is actually animate. So you can actually go between many different styles on the same state. So I can actually animate this. I can add one or more rows here, and I can set what I want that row to be. So here I want this to say faulted as well. I want that to be a yellow with a black foreground color, and I want the border on both of these to maybe be a bevel here so that I can actually see that. And I can add many steps here, and each step can have a different duration in milliseconds. As you can see, the sample here, it's actually going between those two states. So as soon as I press OK, I'll see it coming through on this component. So if I go and change the state over here to, let's say, 2, it's going to go between that blinking in there. And again, all the properties here are bold, letting me know it's used in styles.